What's up, everyone? We're just about ready to wrap things up here at E3 2010. We've gotten our hands on all the games and all the booth babes, so now it's time to start talking about who won E3, or if anybody won E3. We're talking about the big three, the first parties, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. We have our resident experts in line here. Why don't we start with Craig Harris? How did Nintendo do this year?
There's no question that Nintendo won this.
No
question. I mean, they not only showed us a Zelda game and a Donkey Kong Country game, the third-party stuff, you got Epic Mickey and you got the NBA Jam, they're fantastic games, but the big hit of the show is pretty much the 3DS. I mean, anyone who's seen it just thinks it's an amazing piece of technology, and it's a really good handheld system.
The 3DS is very cool. I thought Nintendo's press conference was the weakest of the three, though.
Really?
Right.
I was sitting right there in the crowd.
It was off to such a rough start.
Okay, so the Zelda demonstration had a problem, but with the whole Wii remote, sometimes you pick up some infrared signals and problems there. But it actually plays much better than it did in the press conference, so I have no problems with that.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Eric, what do you think? Craig says Nintendo. There's no question, they're the winner.
I think Craig has half of a point because the 3DS is awesome. It's really cool technology. I'm not so sure if I'd really want to sit there with it as a handheld, but in terms of technology, it's amazing. I really want that as just a big TV, so I can just have that on the wall. That'd be amazing. In terms of like stuff that I want and I will play and I will use, Microsoft's press conference offered quite a bit that I thought was actually useful stuff instead of like games I will play, and the ESPN deal with Xbox Live is probably the thing that I will spend the most time with over the next year, as opposed to any of the games here. Like, I'll play all these games, but in terms of one thing that's gonna suck up my time, watching sports games through my 360 now.
I thought the Microsoft conference was the best, just in terms of a presentation. Like, it was snappy, there were no problems, there were no awkward moments. There weren't any big revelations, but it flew by, it was entertaining. Sony's was good too. It was a little long, maybe it dragged on in certain sections.
Yeah, it was inconsistent. I don't necessarily disagree with Craig. I thought Nintendo had a really strong showing too, but I think Sony had a lot of compelling core titles. And their emphasis on things like the Move and a little bit of talk about the PlayStation Plus and some 3D talk, there was a lot of versatility there. But we got to see games like Killzone 3, which we already knew about. Twisted Metal was announced, so David Jaffe lied to us. He was at E3. Yeah, he's a liar, but in a good, in the best way possible, of course. And then we got some third-party stuff, a lot of stuff from EA. We got to see Dead Space 2 and Tiger. Sorry, Craig, we're even going to get Dead Space Extraction on the PS3.
It's a good big announcement about Portal 2.
Yeah, and of course, Portal 2. Gabe showed up and showed Portal 2. It was a huge surprise, maybe even the biggest surprise of the entire conference.
He ate a little bit of humble pie there.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Well, so now all three systems have their motion control technologies. Yeah. Is it fair to say that we're pleasantly surprised with both Kinect and the PlayStation Move?
I think some people would be. I think with Kinect, for me, it was really hit or miss. There were a few games that I thought were really cool and I'm really looking forward to, like Child of Eden is really cool. Forza was really tight. I was surprised at how well a hardcore racing game could control with no controller. But then on the flip side,
Dance Central.
Oh yes, let's not forget about Dance Central. The game's actually a lot of fun.
Super fun.
I'm a terrible dancer and it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
So that's amazing. On the flip side though, there are a few games that were just really rough and some that just flat out didn't really work. So, I mean, at this point I'd say it's unproven as a success. It's got some highlights.
How about the PlayStation Move they're calling?
Actually, on Podcast Beyond, I was talking a lot about, in recent weeks, about how I thought the Kinect, or Natal at the time, was actually going to be more convincing and a lot better than Move. And now I think actually when we've seen them both in action, my opinions of them are kind of reversed. The Move has a lot of core games that I'm actually interested in. That game Sorcerer looks really cool. Got some time even with some older games like Resident Evil 5 that played really well with the Move. So I'm actually really enjoying it. It seems like Natal, or Kinect, I'm sorry, is still waiting for some of its core games to get the hardcore Xbox users involved in.
I just have to say though, I don't think it's possible to play a hardcore game holding these two neon glowing things.
Yeah, maybe
and
not.
Feel cool.
Well,
it's not.
We've been
possible.
doing it on the Wii for years, so.
No, but the Wii doesn't glow. It's not holding like these glowing.
Yeah, what is the Nintendo perspective on both Kinect and PlayStation Move?
I think it's good. I mean, they're flattered that they're picking up on what Nintendo's already done with the Wii Motion, Wii Motion Plus. But yeah, I mean, if you looked at anything they showed at the E3, the only thing that was really showing any sort of motion was the Zelda games.
Right.
I mean, obviously it had problems at the press conference, but it actually works on the show floor. But most games were holding back on any sort of really weird, unnecessary motion. It's just back to the core.
No vitality sensor.
No vitality sensor. I did talk to Miyamoto. He says it's in the works. It just didn't think it was this was a proper venue to show it. So it's still happening. You might be able to see it this year.
I see. All right, so Craig definitely thinks Nintendo.
No question.
What about you, Eric?
I'm kind of up in the air. I thought some of the most impressive stuff, like Microsoft had a few good games. Halo Reach looks awesome. Gears of War 3 Beast Mode is cool. But in terms of the best games, I think a lot of the third-party games were actually the hits of the show. Portal 2 is amazing. Rage looks phenomenal. The Dead Space 2 demo is one of the best demos I've ever seen. So I mean, in terms of like winning the show, I don't know if you really can declare a winner when the third parties that are putting these out on all the platforms, I mean, except the Wii.
Yeah, exactly.
Are, you know, those are the ones that are the stars of the show.
How about you, Colin?
You know, I'm kind of torn. I think, you know, Nintendo did a really nice job, and I was really surprised, authentically surprised by what they were showing. But Sony obviously had the best moment of the show with Kevin Butler's appearance, which I'm not sure anyone could dispute.
Very funny.
And, you know, but otherwise, you know, I agree. I thought Rage was really cool. There's a lot of great third-party games out there. I think we actually are all kind of winners because, you know, a lot of good stuff was shown at all three conferences.
Oh.
That's right. Everybody wins. But the real winner is you, the viewer. You know, the camera's not even on me. They don't see it. Anyway, thanks guys for joining us for this informal chat. We gotta go, we're gonna head out on the show floor, wrap up all the games we haven't seen yet. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you check out all the great E3 2010 coverage we have on IGN.com.